Hey guys, Super Rugby Pacific 2026 round 2 is coming up this weekend. That means another round of Fantasy Super Rugby coming up as well. In this video, I will be going over the best player picks for fantasy in every position. Before we get into that though, let's have a quick look at the fixtures. Now remember guys, when we look at the fixtures, we want to identify the matchups where the most tries are going to be scored, where the play is going to be open, there's going to be line breaks, offloads, all that sort of thing that nets us fantasy points. And then we want to pick our players from those matchups, or at least we favor picking them from those matchups. Coming up first on Friday night, we have the Hurricanes playing their first game of the season up against Moana Pacifica. This will be in Wellington. At the moment, the weather looks good, and I like this matchup a lot for points. Generally, the Hurricanes, they play very fast and open. Often they go wide, get it to the edges. Because it's their first match of the season though, there is a bit of a question mark over it. I suspect things are probably going to be a bit sloppy from them. In general, all the teams last week for their round 1 were pretty sloppy as well. So we gotta expect that from the Canes too. But that should be a good thing for us from a fantasy perspective. These sloppy games, it tends to be a lot of turnover ball and counter-attacking play off of that. So because of that, I do like the prospects of this match. Moana Pacifica, they seem like they've heavily rotated their players after last week's trip to Fiji. So they're not as strong on paper as I think they should be to have a good chance against the Hurricanes in this match. But again, Hurricanes first game, so can't take anything for granted, but I do like the idea of picking players in this games, particularly backs from the Hurricanes. Then after that, we have Waratahs versus the Ndrua in Sydney. At the moment, the weather looks cloudy, but it looks like it should be dry. Might want to check that closer to the game though. If it rains, you will want to reevaluate your picks for this match. And yeah, this is another good fantasy matchup. I think I'm feeling pretty good about picking up lots of Waratahs. They were sloppy against the Reds, but they were able to break them eventually and then put a lot of points on them. And with the Fijian and Ndrua, they really don't travel that well at all. We've seen that from them consistently over the years. When they have to go out of Fiji, they struggle quite badly. And they've got pretty much the same team. They have changed their halves. They're starting Frank Lamani. They've brought in Armstrong Ravula. I think that will help them, but it's probably not going to be enough against a Tars squad, which is also unchanged as well. Max Jorgensen, he is a very alive option here, but we'll talk about that later. Then on the Saturday, we have Highlanders versus the Chiefs in Dunedin, so it will be dry under the cover. Not a huge fan of this matchup for fantasy. Both teams just came off arm wrestles last week against the Crusaders and the Blues respectively. Those matches are not that rewarding from a fantasy perspective, and I feel like this matchup, it could also just be another arm wrestle. That said, probably not as bad as the ones that they both had last week, so wouldn't feel too bad about picking players in this matchup, to be honest. But yeah, it's still likely you're gonna have better prospects in these other games. And then after that, we have Force versus the Blues in Perth, where it's always going to be dry, a really fast track, but it will be hot. And with these teams in general, both of them kind of struggle to really rack up a lot of tries. So I'm usually not a big fan of drawing a lot of players from either of these teams, but I do actually like this matchup a lot this week, especially for forwards, but for some backs as well. Because last week we saw the Brumbies, they came out in that second half against the Force, and they really were able to just rumble over them with the forwards. They got deep into Force territory, just went to work with their forwards, bullied them, got over the line, built up a bit of scoreboard pressure that way. And then when the Force were chasing the game, they just sort of crumbled, and that's when the Brumbies backs came into play and were able to pile on some more points on top as well. And I feel like that sort of dynamic really suits the Blues, because that's how they play as well. They really like to put the graft in with their big forwards close to your line. They absolutely love that. And yeah, if they're able to do that in the same ways that the Brumbies did, just sort of build up a bit of a points lead, rumbling over them with the forwards, get the Force chasing the game, and then that could bring the Blues backs into the game as well. So that's what I'm hoping for in that matchup. And then finally, on the Sunday afternoon, actually, we're going to have Crusaders versus the Brumbies. It is a home game for the Crusaders, so I assume it's in Christchurch. Weather looks pretty good at the moment as well, but I do expect this again to just be another one of those arm wrestles. I mean, it might not be, but yeah, Crusaders, they got a real shock to the system last week against the Highlanders, whereas Brumbies, they had a softer test just going up against the Force, even though they were playing away from home. They won't be able to just sort of rumble the Crusaders up front though, like they did with the Force. So yeah, I'm feeling best case scenario for the Brumbies, this is an arm wrestle, but it's also possible that the Crusaders, they sort of pick themselves up after last week. They take on the mistakes and improve, and are able to put the Brumbies away. So yeah, tricky one to pick into there, but not one that I feel terrible about either, especially for the forwards. Anyway, let's get into the picks. Now we will start off with the outside backs, and number one outside back pick for me this week, I think, is quite easily going to be Max Jorgensen. Old Jorgo got 73 last week in that game against the Reds. This week they're up against the Androa at home in Sydney. I feel like this is just going to be perfect conditions for Jorgensen to have another big game. He's clearly in form at the moment, so I've picked him. I've made him my captain. This is probably the one pick that I feel the most confident in this week. Looking at your other options on the outside backs, though, there's always many of them. There's Lagona Masi, picked him last week. He did so good, getting 79 points, the highest scoring outside back, and he didn't even score a try. But if you watch that game, like every time he touched the ball, it was so impressive. He was making things happen. And I mean, look at this, 30 line break assists. He got a 50-22 as well. Like, I was kind of disappointed when I was watching the game because he wasn't getting a lot of fantasy points, even though I thought he was playing really well. But after the round, when the scores updated, he obviously ended up being on top. So he's a solid pick. It's always kind of dicey picking the Androa when they're away from home and they're playing in tougher matchups. But again, like he's kind of a solid player, and at 7.9 million, he doesn't break the bank either. So pretty solid pick, I think, even though I haven't got him for this week. Other picks that we have going, Will Jordan. I mean, tough matchup potentially this weekend. Could be an arm wrestle, which isn't great for the backs, but it's Will Jordan. Like he's always solid. He's always going to get a decent amount of points, even if he doesn't sort of blast through the roof. Only problem really with Will Jordan, that's that he is 9.6 million. If you got the cash to spare, you might want to pick him up if you want that solid pick, but otherwise we still got plenty of other options available. Sapsford, Toole, Muirhead. Yeah, really not a fan of the Brumbies picks this week. Again, that's going to be a tough matchup, probably going to be a forwards battle. With these Highlanders though, Radamai Tavuki Neepkins, Jonah Nareki, Caleb Tangatau, I've said it before, I really love this Highlanders back three. They're all so good, but again, tough matchup for them against the Chiefs. And I keep saying it about these guys, like, because it's always a tough game for the Highlanders. They never really get to go out there and just blow somebody off the park. So this back three, they never really get to to shine. They never really get to blast through the roof, but they still do solid, right? They'll still get like 40, 50 in these tough matchups. So again, these are guys you can't really go wrong with, but they are kind of pricey. Radumaitavuki Nitkins, he's the most consistent, but 9 million. Tangitau is my favorite actually, even though he didn't do that well last week. Sometimes it happens with wingers, like sometimes the ball goes down the other wing and not yours. But yeah, he's 10.5 million still after dropping a whole $500,000, the maximum last week. Jonah Nareki, he's the cheapest, 8.2 million. Definitely don't have a problem with picking any of these guys, but yeah, he's probably the best value out of all of them. And Zahn Sullivan, only 5 mil. I actually like the Zahn pick a lot this week because, well, one thing, he actually took over the goal kicking in last week's game from Perifetas. So if he gets the goal kicking this week, I mean, that'll be a pretty good burn, right? Because if you're taking those conversions and penalties, that's a solid basis of fantasy points. And then anything he does sort of ball in hand on top of that could be a bonus. Got 42 points last week in an arm wrestle. He did get a try. But yeah, Zahn, he's a guy, he can sort of do it all. He can kick, he can carry, he likes to attack with ball in hand. And yeah, I think I've picked him for this week. I think he could go well against the Force. Like if it plays out like I said, if the Blues are able to sort of break the Force, get them chasing the game, that'll open things up, and then guys like Zahn and the outside backs can capitalize on that. And if he gets the goal kicking as well, then yeah, I hope that happens. Yeah, he's a pretty good pick, especially if you're looking for someone cheaper as well, which you don't really need to do with the outside backs. You should allocate a lot of your money there, but yeah, it does definitely take pressure off for the rest of your budget. So yeah, Zahn Sullivan, very good pick. Jonah Lowe, he's in the midfield, just avoid him at all costs, unfortunately. And not much else exciting going on. Normally I'm a big fan of Sevu Reece. He was a bust last week though, and again, if there's another sort of arm wrestle against the Brumbies, might not be a great week for him. Actually, Hendren and Harry Potter, like for the same reasons that Jorgensen is really in play this week. I think Harry Potter's not a bad option either, to be honest. You could go both Jorgo and Harry Potter. 8.1 million, still kind of pricey. Didn't do that much last week in a kind of open game, but didn't necessarily get a lot of game time. But yeah, Potter's definitely in play. Don't know a lot about this Hendren guy. He is very cheap, but yeah, I would, between Jorgo and Potter, you're kind of covered if you really want to invest in Canes for this matchup. And now Taumai Falau, I believe Nada was on the bench for the Chiefs, so Taumai Falau, he's probably going to be the one who ends up getting subbed for Nadawa. If you do like the Chiefs this week, if you want to get a piece of their outside backs action, Leroy Carter would definitely be my main pick out of that whole back line. It will be his first game of the year. We don't know what form he's in. I'm sure it's good though. I mean, these Sevens guys, they're always good to go. 8.5 million, kind of pricey, but yeah, he's my pick of the Chiefs. And then lastly, we have the Canes. This is their first game of the season, obviously, so they don't have scores registered. We've got Harkin at fullback, Finianga on the left wing, and Josh Morby on the right wing, back from overseas. And I actually like all of these guys, and I like their matchup against Moana Pacifica. So yeah, I do want a bit of exposure here. It's just a question of which one do you go for. I think the left wing always has the highest potential, which would be Finianga, but I'm a big fan of Cam Harkin. Like last year, he was awesome in fantasy because he wasn't listed in back three. He was listed in fly half, even though he played at fullback. But he's really got a lot of pace, man. Like, and yeah, just having that pace, like when he gets the ball, when he does attack with ball in hand, yeah, he's a guy. He can get line breaks and he can get tries. So I'm not hard committed to him. I have selected him in my lineup at the moment. Remember, you can only pick 4 players from one team, and I'm kind of loaded up on Hurricanes already, so it might sort of come down to which Hurricanes you've picked in other positions, whether you might go for one of these guys. But yeah, all 3 of these guys I think are definitely good options, but Harkin's my pick out of the 3 of them. Now, moving on to the midfield. I've got Tavatava Nawai and Joseph Suali'i. Suali'i didn't do that great last week against the Reds, even though it was a pretty open game. It's just that it was too kind of broken up. It wasn't very structured. But yeah, I'm not that sold on Suali'i anymore. Like it was so good last year when he was playing at fullback, and yeah, he really had a lot of time and space to, you know, leverage his abilities and create things. It may not happen while he's at 13. It didn't last week. It may not this week, but we know he's got it in him, right? We know he's got it in him. So I've kind of tentatively got him here, but I might end up switching him out because, yeah, I've picked 4 Waratahs, and Waratahs in general are probably going to be pretty good picks this week. So I might end up trading him out. Other options that we do have in this position, well, the big one is actually Jordie Barrett all the way at the bottom here because it's the Hurricanes' first game. But yeah, like Jordie Barrett obviously wasn't here last year, so we didn't see how he went for fantasy. I mean, he might not be amazing, to be honest, but I mean, we know what he's capable of, right? So you got to put him in the frame. And if you're not already loaded up on Hurricanes, he's definitely one to consider bringing in. Other options are, of course, Tavatava Nawai. He's good for 40 points. And yeah, you got to be happy with that in the midfield. And the 4th option I was thinking is Quintupaya. He was pretty solid last week in what was an arm wrestle, 35 points. I mean, a bunch of turnovers and tackles, didn't even get a try. Like scored a lot of points off the ball, which is pretty impressive, to be honest. So those are my 4 main picks for the midfield. This Pritchard guy got a lot of points last week. I don't know a lot about him, but I don't expect him to replicate the same thing in the Crusaders, and I kind of want to see him do it again before I really start rating him as a pick. Another options, maybe these Blues midfielders might go all right. Again, I kind of like that force matchup, but and yeah, like Eno, I kind of like the idea of him for fantasy. He did not look that good at all last week, but yeah, if you really think the Crusaders are going to put the Brumbies to the sword, I mean, neither of these guys will be bad options either. Although Panganuku is on the bench, so not sure if he's going to come off and replace one of the wings like Fihaki. It's possible he could come on and replace maybe Braden Eno, so you might want to hedge your bets and go with Havili if you do end up picking a Crusader midfielder. Now onto the fly halves. Not a lot of exciting options here. Meredith did well last week, but again, it's not going to be that easy against the Crusaders. Same story with Donaldson coming up against the Blues. Like, that is going to be tough. That's going to be a forwards battle, probably a lot of kicking to start with. Crichton against the Druid. In general, I'm not a huge fan of Crichton, but I mean, it's a great matchup. He's pretty cheap. If you want to save money in this slot, he's probably not going to go that badly, to be honest. I've picked Stephen Perifetta. I think he is probably the best option this week. Again, the Blues, I like them in that matchup against the Force. It's going to be nice try conditions, and watching Perifetta last week, he did actually attack a bit with the ball in hand, which is what we like to see out of fantasy 10s. I think he did get points for couple of line break assists here. So yeah, that's basically what Perifetta's got going for him. He will attack ball in hand. Only thing I don't like about this pick is that he did get the goal kicking taken off him last week. I don't know if he'll get it back this week. I assume he at least gets another shot at it. Hopefully he's been practicing during the week. And yeah, hopefully those goal kicking points will be a boon to us. Pellegrini, I think he's not a bad option. Didn't do much last week, but this guy was pretty good last year. I'm a fan of him, so pretty solid pick, not expensive. Jacob, I think, wasn't that great last week, to be honest. Cam Miller is great for his goal kicks, but yeah, doesn't exactly carve it up otherwise, and yeah, not going to be acres of space against the Chiefs, to be honest. Rabitu is actually playing at 12. Armstrong Ravula is going to be the starting 10. And I'm a fan of Armstrong Ravula, but yeah, they're traveling. Not a bad pick, to be honest, but probably not a great one either. But yeah, Rabitu, he's playing at 12. I don't think that necessarily makes his fantasy prospects that much better than if he was playing at 10. So yeah, not sure what to make of that, to be honest. I don't know if there's anything to be exploited there, but let me know what you think about that. Rayhana, again, it's going to be an arm wrestle against the Brumbies. I do like Rayhana. He was great last year. He was good for fantasy points as well. It's kind of expensive, and yeah, I got burned on him last week. I lost that $500,000, so kind of steering away from him this week. We have to wait and see if the Crusaders actually come back into form or not. And otherwise, we have Brett Cameron, first game back for the Hurricanes, and yeah, he's been good for the Hurricanes in recent years, so not a bad pick either, to be honest. Doesn't exactly carve it up running with the ball in hand, so I still kind of prefer Perifetta over him, but definitely not a bad option. Now moving on to the halfbacks. Now the big story at halfback is that Cam Roigard is back, but he is on the bench and he costs 9.1 million. So Arianari will be starting, and we don't know at what point Cam Roigard is going to come onto the field. I mean, it could be earlier if the Hurricanes are really struggling to put Moana away, or it could be later if the Hurricanes are cruising. So there is a bit of risk there going for Roigard on the bench, but I mean, this was a play that was often worth it last year, picking Roigard even when he's on the bench, just because he was so much better than every other halfback in fantasy. Like, he's the only halfback that really scores fantasy points, and it's just because he attacks so much more with ball in hand. Like, he's just so much more relentless as a halfback. So yeah, there's an interesting decision to be made there with Roigard on the bench. If you don't want to take that chance, if you don't want to go for Roigard, I mean, it's pretty slim pickings otherwise. I mean, Hotham, I think Hotham is still next cab off the rank, even though it's a tougher game against the Brumbies, and he is kind of expensive compared to the others. Otherwise, you could go with an Ari as well. I mean, he's super cheap at 2.5 million. I mean, he only needs to get like 15 points and he'll be earning you extra money. And yeah, I mean, he might go well against the Pacifica as well, even though I'm not really a fan of him in general. Other than that, I'd probably go for Lamani, or probably not Lonergan, to be honest. But I mean, he did do pretty well last week. But yeah, Lamani, maybe Fakatava. I mean, yeah, it's all just much of a muchness here, to be honest. You kind of got to go with your gut if you're not going for Roigard or for Hotham. Now, with the loose forwards, we always have a lot of options in the back row. I mean, the big story was Charlie Cale last week, 113 points. I think that was the highest point scored for the whole round by anyone. I had him in my team, and yeah, he really bailed me out for that round. I was talking him up as well. If you watched my best picks video last week, I was a really big fan of this guy for fantasy, just because he's so good attacking with ball in hand. He only played about 4 games last year, but he was good in those games. But the year before that, he was excellent as well. Like, he was really impressive. So, I mean, this guy's the real deal with ball in hand. I don't know. I haven't picked him this week just because, again, like, he's coming up against the Crusaders, and yeah, you're not just gonna get the ball in hand and style on the Crusaders and run through them. I mean, the guy's good, but I don't know if he's that good, to be honest. So I've kind of shied away from picking him this week. At 8.1 million, though, I mean, he's actually not that expensive for what he can do. But yeah, I'm going with my gut this week and staying away from him, even though I kind of like him a lot. Otherwise, there's kind of not a lot going on in the back row that excites me, which is usually kind of rare, because the back row, it's usually a very busy position. You can see I've gone for Sotutu, Lakai, and Gamble. Charlie Gamble, I'm just showing him some faith after that performance he put in last week. And I mean, this guy's always been kind of good. He was good last year. He wasn't like a crazy points machine, but he was very consistently sort of maybe just below that point where you become, you know, a real fantasy favorite. But maybe this year he's sort of graduating to that point. I mean, we've got to see him put in another good performance. But like I said, I like this matchup with the Tars against the Fijian drawer. The guy being informed, that's enough to you know, get me to pick him, especially when there's not a lot going on elsewhere. Tizano didn't do much last week. I kind of expect the same thing again. Like, they ran into the Brumbies ball last week. Hard to get that maul going against them. It's going to be the same story against the Blues. Like, yeah, just going to be hard to get the maul going against the Blues. Hard to bully them in that area. So again, I'm fading Tizano this week. I've gone for Hoskins Sotutu though, for the reverse reason. Again, I think the Blues are going to be able to just rumble over the Force using their forwards. And Sotutu, he wasn't that great last week. He was pretty invisible. And I was kind of saying before the season starts, like, is Sotutu going to be a factor? He's going overseas after this. Is he going to be that up for it? Based on last week's performance, maybe he isn't. But I'm going to show a little bit of faith here, just because I think the conditions of this matchup do suit him a lot. He really excels when the Blues are sort of getting their rumble on inside the other teams, you know, on their goal line. He's really good at either rumbling himself or just doing that try assist. So yeah, I've gone with Hoskins at 2-2. Otherwise, I've gone with Peter Lakai. I'm a really big fan of Brady and Iose and Peter Lakai, especially Iose. I think he's quite good, kind of in that Charlie Cale mold. He's good ball in hand, but Brad Shields is on the bench, and I kind of feel like Shields is going to end up replacing him. He might replace Flanders and Iose stays on, but otherwise Lakai's pretty good anyway, right? So yeah, he can get those big carries, and he can get over the try line as well. So that's why I've gone for a Lakai out of those three. And otherwise, there's just not a lot else here that's really exciting to me. I mean, Papali'i, yeah, not bad, but rather go with Sotutu. Donna Kovada, he's solid, kind of underwhelmed me last week. Blackadder, really not a fan of Blackadder for fantasy. These Brumbies back rowers, I mean, Scott, he's a fetcher, he's a good player, but yeah, he doesn't get rewarded that much for it. Tough matchup against the Crusaders, you're not going to bash through them. Kind of the same story for Valentini, right? As much of a unit as he is, he's probably not going to bash through them. Pete Samu, I mean, I've always liked that guy. Didn't do much last week though. Luke Jacobson, you know, don't think this is a bad pick, to be honest. Even if this turns out to be like a bit of an arm wrestle, I think Luke Jacobson does well in that sort of matchup. Anton Segner, he gets a start this week after coming off the bench. I mean, he might actually go well against the Force, to be honest. But yeah, I still kind of prefer the Satutu pick, and not a lot going on otherwise. Now moving on to the locks. Well, the big story last week was Tupo Vai'i getting that big haul of 51 points, which is massive for a lock. It was bolstered 15 points for that try he got. He would have been in that sort of 36 region otherwise, which wouldn't have been as amazing. You can't always take it for granted that a lock is going to run in a try every week, but he was good in that game anyway. And he's always been a strong fantasy pick in the lock section, because he really is just a fantastic player. Even though that try shouldn't have been awarded, the referees came out and said it shouldn't have been awarded after the round finished. But yeah, the only bad thing about Vai is that he's 6.1 million, which is kind of expensive for a lock. But and yeah, like, he's probably not going to get 51 points again this round, to be honest. But so yeah, you might end up losing money on him depending on what his score is, but not a big deal, to be honest. If you got the money, you probably should just get Vai. Otherwise, in this slot, I do like Amatosero, just because, yeah, it's that Drua matchup, right? And he looked good last week, like, you know, beating up his teammates at training. I think that's really got him fired up for a big year. So yeah, I'm pretty happy picking him up for my second lock slot. Only 3.2 million as well, so not a lot of value wasted there. But otherwise, this slot's much of a muchness. I think these Brumbies locks are pretty good for their price, to be honest. Can't go wrong with that. Matt Phillip, not a bad option either. Jeremy Williams, I got him last week, but he didn't do so well. Lost me a little bit of money, bit of a shame. These Blues locks, though, I think you got a couple of good options here. Like, Josh Berry is actually quite good. He was good last year in fantasy. And yeah, I like that Force matchup for the Blues. He could be a good pick. And McQuannell as well. Like, he's only 2.8 million, so he only needs to score, like, yeah, like, he scored 13 points here. If he scores like 14, 15 points, he's actually gonna go up in value. So I mean, this isn't a bad thing to do with these locks and prop slots, to be honest. Just get a guy that's like kind of cheap, under 3 million, and just let him like earn you a little bit of extra budget for later on in the season if he does okay. They're not going to lose you money, because well, unless they get injured early or something. But yeah, that's an option as well. Now with the props, another not exciting category. The options I actually like the most here is the Blues props, particularly Marcel Renata. He lost a lot of money last week. He only got 6 points, but he came off the bench. But this guy was actually pretty good last year, especially in the back half of the season. He came back from injury. He really sorted out the Blues scrum, made it solid, but he was also scoring a lot of tries. Like every game, sort of second game, he'd come up with a try, which is pretty much what you want out of a prop. But yeah, he can get those tries when the Blues are banging away on your line. And I mean, that could be something that happens in this game against the Force. And yeah, I do like Renata for that. Positua, not a bad pick either for the same reasons, but I do think Renata is better. 5.2, a little bit expensive for a prop, but yeah, if you got the money, that's probably my top option. But another option that good is Xavier Numian. I've always liked the idea of this guy in fantasy, because in the past he used to be very good ball in hand, right? Like he was one of those running props. He could get low and sort of get through the tackle, but if he got the ball in the open, he had a bit of pace. Last year he wasn't so good for that, unfortunately. I picked him a lot in fantasy, but he never really delivered. That's why he's only worth 3.2 million. But you know, new year, Cross my fingers again, like put some faith in him again, make the same mistake, I guess. But yeah, you gotta hope maybe he's gonna regain that old form. I don't know, but yeah, I picked him on that basis alone. It doesn't really make that much difference otherwise. The other pick I've made is Balidi Saitofo from Moana Pacifica, and I picked that guy just because he's a massive unit. So yeah, if Moana do get on the Cairns line, like you give the ball to that guy, he can burrow over. He's just a gigantic unit. I think last year there was a game where he scored like 3 tries. It might have been against the Waratahs. Probably not going to happen again, but I mean, you know, when it comes to props, it's all much of a muchness, so that's as good a logic as any. And lastly, but not least, because this is a very important position, we have the hookers. And yeah, Takiaho, he was a big one last week on 49, got that try against the Blues where, yeah, he showed his strength and muscled over, and that's his specialty, and he could do it again this week against the Highlanders, right? They get them all going, could get that try as well. So yeah, very strong pick. Only downside is that he is expensive, 6.7 million. His price did just go up 0.4 after this haul, but yeah, definitely a pick you can't go wrong with. Jack Taylor and Ethan Dobbins, 47 and 45 respectively, and that is without scoring a try. So pretty impressive scores for these guys. For Jack Taylor, it's mostly come out of scrums because of all that ball that the Crusaders dropped, and for Dobbins, I mean, 3 turnovers and a lot of lineouts because the Reds just gave away a ridiculous amount of penalties in that game. So yeah, that created a lot of lineouts for Ethan Dobbins. But yeah, I mean, those sort of dynamics, you can't take those for granted because it's kind of out of the individual's control. So I don't know. I'm not convinced these guys will be consistently good point scorers week in and week out. We've got to see a few more rounds, I think, before I really, you know, register these guys on the radar. But in 4th position, Bradley Slater got 39 last week. I'm a big fan of this pick for this week. And actually, if you look at Slater's stats for last week, like his points aren't padded out by scrums. There wasn't a huge amount of lineouts. But yeah, couple of turnovers, a few tackles, got a steal, got a tackle bust, like pretty good score considering he wasn't dipping deep into those passive point scoring categories. But I liked his performance last week, but yeah, I just sort of like the idea of picking Blues forwards going up against the Force this week. So yeah, he's a solid pick, I think. George Bell, yeah, going to be Cody's on the bench, might come on early, could be an arm wrestle against the Crusaders. Yeah, kind of a tricky pick. Paenga Mosa's good, but yeah, coming up against the Blues. Pollard, yeah, he really let me down last week, man. I was kind of surprised by that. I thought he would come away with a better score, but no, they didn't really get that maul going against the Force. So yeah, it cost me a bit of money, unfortunately. And then lastly, we have Asafa Omoa, which is a pretty big name. And yeah, he's kind of the same as Xavier Numere. Like last year, I kept sort of picking him because, yeah, Omoa, he's also good ball in hand, right? He can burrow through tackles. He can run in the open. So I was kind of thinking, you know, that's the kind of guy that will be ideal for fantasy. But yeah, he wasn't that amazing last year. So yeah, I ended up picking him without a lot of reward, and yeah, same story as Numere, right? Like new year, new possibilities, new prospects. If you like the Canes, I mean, yeah, at 5.9 million, that's not too bad. I wouldn't begrudge this pick at all. So yeah, if you haven't used up your 4 Hurricane slots already, you might like the idea of picking him up as well. Now, moving on to captain options. For me, a pretty easy choice for me this week. Max Jorgensen. Yeah, I'm pretty big on this guy's prospects coming up against the Androa. Outside of him, though, it is kind of tricky. I mean, you could go Tava Nawai, just double your 40 points if you want to be safe. Perifeta could be a good option if he does keep the goal kicking and actually kicks those goals successfully. I think Perifeta could be a solid pick. But Roygaard was starting. He would be a good pick, but he's not. So it would be very risky to captain Roygaard. So yeah, it's kind of tricky once you get outside of Jorgensen, to be honest. But I'm pretty happy with the Jorgensen pick. And as for opportunities to use boosters this week, for me personally, I think it's just too kind of early to pull the trigger on any of these. We don't have a lot of information about what's hot and what's not this season. If you were going to pick any booster this week, I mean, for me, it would just be the triple captain Jorgo, but otherwise, I don't really feel great about using boosters this week. Anyway, guys, that'll do it from me. I hope this video helped. Let me know what you think, or if I missed out on anything. Don't forget to check the weather closer to game day as well, as things might have changed. If a game looks like it's going to be wet, you might want to adjust your team, especially in the backs. Also, don't forget to check before each game as well, in case one of your players gets dropped from the starting lineup. If they do, you can replace them right up until kickoff. Teams usually post updates about this on their social media as well, so keep an eye on those, because if you don't do it, it's going to happen at some point during this season. One of your players is going to be the guy that ends up getting dropped late before a match, and you miss it and you get 0 points for that slot. And if it's a prop or a lock, it's kind of who cares, but if it's one of your outside backs, that really sucks. But otherwise, guys, enjoy the rest of your week, enjoy this weekend's games, and I'll catch up with you after the weekend for the recap. So have a good one.